Marc Raimondi back for ESPN with a special guest today, Jake Paul, ahead of his big boxing match next week in Cleveland, Ohio against Tyron Woodley. It'll be your fourth pro fight, Jake. You're in Puerto Rico right now. How has training camp been? How are things looking right now?
It's good, man. I'm having fun. I was just peeing in the bush outside, and I was just like, man, life is good. Life is so good, man. I'm having the time of my life, and I'm gonna look back on these years and be like, damn, that was lit. But I'm on point, baby. I'm sharper than ever. Puerto Rico isolation. This training camp's been literally perfect.
Well, that's a heck of an anecdote about the bushes there. I wanted to ask you about Woodley because, going to the Askren fight, I think a lot of people thought that Askren could beat you, but I don't think a lot of people thought that Askren could really, hurt you with his punches, because we had never really seen that from Askren in his MMA fights. But Woodley's a different animal. Woodley is a guy who has knocked out many opponents. He has a huge right hand. Is there anything different about your preparation for this fight? Because Woodley is a guy who can put guys to sleep.
For sure. I mean, we're taking him more serious, and with each fight, my level of opposition has gone up and gone up and gone up, and so I'm getting better constantly, and we're tweaking the finest details, in my game, in my striking, in my sparring, in my conditioning, my strength, everything to be the best that we possibly can be. And as I'm growing into this sport and doing more training camps, I'm only getting sharper with my knowledge and, recovery and what my body responds well to. So, this is, like I said, I know every fighter says it. This has been my best training camp, 100% by far. I was sparring dozens of rounds yesterday, and I get out of the ring and I'm just like not even breathing. So I'm excited.
I've been meaning to ask you this question for a while. Back in April in Jacksonville, Florida, you attend UFC 261. And during actual live fights in Jacksonville, the entire crowd, or at least a good amount of people in the crowd, were chanting F Jake Paul, F Jake Paul. You're sitting there, you're front row. What is going through your head when you hear those chants from thousands of people?
Wow. Like I never knew that I was going to be a conductor of an orchestra. And that was really my sentiment, is like, these people are giving me exactly what I want. This is why I came here, is to stir up and cause a commotion. I made a whole TikTok about it. Like, I just knocked out Ben Askren. The MMA community hates me. What should I do? Piss them off more or be quiet? And I was like, piss them off more. And then it like shows my whole trip to the fight. And then them all going crazy in the stands. And so I love stuff like that. I love being the villain, and I love just entertainment, man. These guys are fighting in the ring, trying to kill each other, and people are chanting at me. It just shows the impact that, I'm having in this sport.
I find it so interesting, man, because there are so few combat sports athletes who can connect with an audience on that level, whether it be positive or negative, right? I mean, either reaction is good, whether it be a cheer or a boo. And they were certainly, giving it to you that night. And I couldn't help but think about, pro wrestling and how, someone comes out and there's chants. I mean, do you take any inspiration from some of those guys from the past, maybe The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin?
I really haven't. I grew up watching wrestling, so maybe deep inside there's something there. But I've always just been a storyteller. I've always just been a larger than life character. I get it from my dad. Like, you talk to my dad for 5 seconds and you're like, what's going on here? This is the craziest guy ever, in a good way. But I guess it's sort of part of who I am, and I love playing into it. When I'm in that world, when I'm boxing, fighting, talking on Twitter, that's the problem child. That's the part of me that comes out, and that's where the nickname comes from.
Yeah, and like I said, so many athletes in combat sports, and it's so important for marketing, for the brand, for the image, to engage with the fans and get some kind of response, right? I mean, that's the name of the game in this business, is to make people care enough to pay to watch you fight. And that's something that you kind of have almost naturally. I mean, was it always like that? Did you know it would, that your skills as a YouTuber were kind of transfer over so well into, the combat sports, the fight game?
Yeah, look, I mean, I didn't realize it at first, but I was like, yeah, this literally everything that I've done in my whole entire life, the media training, the filming of content, the trolling, the disses, the rap battles I've gotten into, all of this has literally prepared me to come into the fight game and, be the best content creator, be the best at doing the media, at ruffling feathers, at posting on social media, because it's something that you don't see a lot of fighters do or really know how to do. Conor McGregor is really the only other one who does it. Ryan Garcia is good at it. Logan's good at it. Some fighters are trying to get better and better. Tyson Fury's good at it, but it's a skill. It's legitimately a skill, and it's a job. Like, I put effort into things I create, and people just think, oh, these YouTubers or these Instagrammers, they have such an easy life. They just post and make money. It's like, no, you have no idea what's going on here. It's all a game.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I also see, and please don't take this as any kind of offense. I know that pro wrestling has like a bad stigma, but it's $1 billion industry for a reason, right? So the way that I feel like you and your team are crafting your career, it's a story. Like, people are following you from the beginning of the career, through the whole journey. And it almost, with Tyron Woodley being in the locker room during the Askren pre-fight, to now Tommy Fury being on your card in Cleveland coming up, it feels like you're painting that picture, painting that narrative, right? Is that incorrect?
No, for sure. A lot of thought goes behind the scenes, into everything that I'm doing. And look, the story is, but at the same time, though, the story is almost painting itself. So it just how the cookie is crumbling, really. And we know that story sells, and that narrative is what people care about.
Where did the idea for stealing Mayweather's hat come from?
That was an impulse decision right there. I was there at the venue, the press conference was happening, and Floyd brought me into it. He started talking about me. So I was like, okay, I was going to stand here and be an audience member today, but he wants to bring me into this. So I start untying his shoe while he was on stage. And then I seen his hat and I was like, I'm going to take that hat. And something in me just like got fixated on taking his hat. And I tried a couple different ways of taking it. And then I realized the only way I was going to be able to take it is to like walk up to him and act like I was trying to do a confrontation and then just steal it and run. I legitimately thought I was going to get away.
You did not get away.
I know. Trust me, I know.
And then, within hours you have merchandise and you have hats and you have t-shirts saying "Gotcha hat." I mean, the not everyone is able to pull something like that off. Publicity stunts followed by capitalizing financially, monetizing that publicity stunt hours later.
Yeah. Look, this is what I do. I'm a marketing internet guy, content creator, business person at heart. That's what a lot of people don't understand. And even the Gotcha brand now has sponsored me. So the Gotcha, the surf brand Gotcha, and I have partnered up, and I'm doing posts for them. So it's turned into this crazy business, and you just gotta capitalize on moments like that and be fast. That the internet moves fast, people move fast, and you gotta be on top of it.
Absolutely, for sure. You posted that list of potential matchups next after Tyron Woodley, and there's some very interesting names on that list. I mean, have you thought about the order of how you want to do that, or anything anything more specific than that?
I haven't thought about the order. I think we'll see how this fight goes. We'll go back to the drawing board and see who makes the most sense. After my brother fought Floyd Mayweather, I'm really don't rule anything out as a possibility. So while it seems crazy for me to fight Canelo next, I don't see it not being a possibility. I think anything's possible. I'm selling, you know, pay-per-views, more pay-per-views than a lot of these guys. So the business model is going to make sense.
Your fight last year against Nate Robinson on the Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson card, a lot of people kind of point to that and say that was the kickoff, the launch of some of these different types of boxing events, whether it be your brother against Floyd Mayweather or Anderson Silva versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Do you think that you were kind of the inspiration for that? But I know that you don't want to think of yourself in that same, novelty class because you're doing real fights, not exhibitions. But do you think that you're partly responsible for this trend?
100%. That event made everyone and their mom want to become a boxing promoter and a boxer. What we proved on that night is, we broke a pay-per-view record, 8th biggest pay-per-view in history. And so everyone saw the dollar signs and just saw, all we have to do is get a ring and put them in there and they can fight. And so that it turned into, this boxing frenzy that we see till this day. The impact that event has had is crazy. People coin my knockout as the most viral, the most seen knockout of all time in the history of the sport of boxing, just because of the digital age that we're living in. It was the 8th biggest pay-per-view, but the hundreds and millions and thousands of tweets and Instagrams and TikToks and challenges that started from that Nate Robinson knockout, it's coined as the most viral knockout moment in the history of boxing.
Do you think you've almost kind of started your own genre of combat sports in some ways?
I guess I'm still trying to figure it out as I go. But the difference with me is, the skill and the level of opposition at such an early stage, and the fact that I just was famous before coming into the sport. But to be honest, it's really just pro boxing now. It really is, and Tyron's, a pro boxer at heart. That's how he won his titles, was with his fists. So it's really just pro boxing with some added circus hoopla to it.
Do you think that there are fighters right now on the UFC roster who could be realistic opponents for you down the road, whether, maybe not next, but maybe next year or in the future?
For sure. It all depends. I think we just have to see how the cookie crumbles. And obviously they have to be free agents, because I don't think Dana White is letting anyone fight me anytime soon.
That's partly your fault, is it not?
It is. But I also don't care, I don't need his fighters to sell pay-per-views. That unfortunately for him, a lot of people need Dana White. I am the farthest thing from that. In fact, Dana White needs me.
Got it. Jake, I will let you go. I know you're very busy. Again, Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley, August 29th in Cleveland. I appreciate the time. Thanks so much, man.
Appreciate it. Peace out, man.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.